title. The ink beneath, I was no longer in control. My body floated in the dark, hollow and weightless. Cold hands slithered beneath my skin, twisting through my veins. The ink had become part of me, alive, breathing, pulsing like a second heart. Jake stood before me, or what was left of him. His face was stretched thin, his jaw unnaturally wide, and the black patterns across his body pulsed in sync with mine. His empty eye sockets leaked ink. "You're almost ready," he whispered. I tried to scream, but my mouth wouldn't open. My limbs were frozen. My skin bulged and crawled as the ink beneath it moved. "You are the door," Jake said. His hand brushed my face. Cold and wet, his grin widened. "It's time to open." The shapes in the dark stepped closer, long limbs, pale, eyeless faces, gaping mouths lined with jagged teeth. The tattoo on my chest burned violently, a searing heat spreading through my body. My skin split down the middle, tearing with a sickening wet sound. I felt my ribs separating, my chest opening. Jake's mouth stretched unnaturally wide. A wet, black tendril slid from between his teeth. He leaned closer until his mouth was at my ear. "Let them in." My chest ripped open. A gaping black void yawned where my heart should have been, and from the darkness inside me, they began to crawl out. Pale arms, jagged limbs, wet, black shapes, crawling from my body. I screamed as I felt them tearing through my soul, every nerve in my body on fire as they forced their way out. Jake's face hovered over mine, his mouth splitting wider and wider until it was no longer a mouth but a dark chasm. I watched helplessly as the figures pulled themselves from my chest, slithering into the dark, filling it, spreading it. The walls of the void pulsed with life now, eyeless faces, twisting limbs. I could feel them sinking into the world beneath me, spreading through the cracks in reality. Jake's hand pressed into my open chest, his fingers curling around my exposed ribs. His face stretched and twisted smiled wider. "You've done well," he whispered. "The door is open." A hand cold and rotting slid across my face. Long black nails curled against my jaw. I was pulled upward, my vision blurring. I was no longer screaming, my throat had been shredded from the inside. Jake leaned down, his black mouth twisting into a cruel smile. "You're not done yet," he whispered. I was dragged into the dark. My body folded inward, my arms breaking unnaturally beneath me as the shapes surrounded me. "You are the door." My skin peeled away as the ink slid beneath the muscle, deeper and deeper. I felt the cold pressure of hands inside my chest, twisting through my bones. A shape pressed its face against mine. Its mouth opened too wide and dark tendrils slid down my throat. I tried to scream, but I had no mouth anymore, no body. Just a hollow shape. Jake's voice echoed in my head. "You're not leaving." I opened my eyes, and I was standing back in the tattoo parlor. The pale artist sat behind the counter. His hollow eyes studied me. "All done?" he asked. I looked down at my arms. The tattoos were gone. My skin was smooth, clean. My body felt wrong. Jake's voice echoed in my head. "You are the door." My legs moved without me wanting them to. The parlor door creaked open. My feet carried me toward it. Outside, the world was dark. Shapes moved beneath the streetlights. Pale limbs slithering through the shadows. Faces with wide, empty eyes turning toward me. Jake's voice whispered from the dark. "It's time." My mouth smiled, my hands open. And I knew I wasn't me anymore. The door was open, and they were already inside. The end.